Hey everyone, welcome to our latest episode of Remax Integra Live. This week I'm really excited. We're going to do a full topic on blogging. But before we get into that, I want to introduce everyone who's with us today. First off, I'm Andrew Foliato. If you don't know who I am, I'm one of the trainers here with Remax Integra based out of Mississauga, which if you don't know where that is, it's just near Toronto. And I was sold for a few years before I got into this role. So I was up selling in Aurora, it's a small town north of Toronto. And now I'm here training. So it's a great opportunity, and it's one of my favorite topics because I blogged a lot as well. I'm also joined by my fellow trainer, Chrissy Rogland. So Chrissy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Andrew. I'm Chrissy Rogland, and I am a training specialist for Remax Integra. I am located in Bloomington, Minnesota. I support Bloomington and Wisconsin. I have been training sales professionals for over 14 years now, for a long time, and I'm excited to be here today. Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. And then I'm going to introduce our first guest. Forgive me for reading their bios. I just don't want to get it wrong. First up, we have Marg Shea-Beniti. Marg's been a broker with Remax for 16 years in Collingwood, Ontario. It's one of Ontario's favorite four-season playgrounds where she sells both residential and recreational homes, condos, and land. She's a 2014 Platinum Award winner and a member of the Remax Hall of Fame. Marg also holds a designation as an MVA residential and is a green broker with the National Association of Green Agents and Brokers. She was first licensed 26 years ago and says you can teach old dog new tricks. Marg started blogging in May 2007 and since then has written over 1,300 posts on her blog, which consistently generates over 100,000 income annually directly from it. You can find her blog at blog.collingwood-bluemountain.com. So welcome, Marg.
Thank you, Andrew.
And if anyone has a referral for you, how can they reach out to you?
Well, they can just email me, marg@collingwood-bluemountain.com, and I'll be happy.
That's simple enough. Our other guest is Steve Howe. Steve is a full-time real estate broker in Minnesota with Remax Advantage Plus and the Minnesota Real Estate Team. They're the #1 real estate team in Minnesota since 2006 for all companies and the #1 Remax team in the entire world since 2012. Steve enjoys being a resource for all types of clients, buyers, sellers, investors, and people who just have general questions about anything related to real estate. He grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and currently lives in Apple Valley, Minnesota, with his wife and 2 sons. Steve leads a first-time homebuyer class every month, which keeps him in touch with the market trends and the largest group of homebuyers, millennials. So welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Chrissy, for hooking all this up. Really excited to be here.
Great. And if someone had a referral for you, where can they send it?
They could send it via email is probably best. Email address is simply steve@agentstevehowe.com, and Howe, as you can see, is Howe.
Perfect. That's also pretty easy to get a hold of you then.
There you go, yep.
All right, great. So like I mentioned, today's episode is going to be all about blogging. I used to blog a lot when I was an agent as well. I was posting 3 times a week for a while and saw a lot of success with it, so it's a topic that I really enjoy. But let's get right started with the questions, and I think Chrissy's going to lead us off with the questions to start.
Sure. Marg, so you've been blogging for a while. What made you decide to start to blog?
Back in 2007, we had a situation in our family that required my attention, and it meant I could no longer do the traditional forms of prospecting. And blogging was kind of new in the real estate world at that time, so I thought, you know what, I'll try it because I'm desperate. And I didn't really know what it was going to do, but I thought, well, I'm just going to try it because it sounds like something that could work.
Great. Wonderful. And Steve, how about you?
2008, late 2008, and kind of the way that I got into it was because I liked writing to begin with. I was actually the editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper going way, way back, and so I had a kind of a love of writing from that standpoint. And another agent on our team had actually been a successful real estate investor blogger for a number of years and got a lot of clientele through that means, and so he put on a class to teach other agents on the team how to kind of blog in their specific niches. And so that's kind of how I got into it, took the class from him and just started learning about all the ins and outs and went at it from that standpoint.
Great. And so what kind of results did you start to see with your blogging? And how long did it take till you started to see those results?
Yeah, it didn't take that long, to be honest with you, and this was back in 08, 09. It only took a couple of months to start seeing real results as far as people signing up for either the first-time homebuyer class that we were doing or a number of other kind of, I guess, I don't know what you'd call them, but you know, things on the website that they could give them value. So we had a first-time homebuyer guide on there that they could sign up for. You had the home search that they could sign up for and get information about properties nearby. And so it really only took a couple of months for me to start seeing that that success from people that were looking for information online and looking for a local source to get that information from.
Great. And so for the topics that you blog about, is it primarily for those educational topics, or how do you get your inspiration for the topics that you choose to blog about?
Inspiration. I think that's the funny thing is that I hear from a lot of other people. They always say, well, I don't know what to say. And what I usually get as far as the questions from clients, I'll take one of those and just make it into a blog post, or something I encounter maybe for the first time that I've never encountered before. I'll do a little research on that and just make that into a post or a video or something that helps educate other people that might not know what those topics are. And for me, as far as the first-time home buyers were concerned, it was very simple because we already had a class that we had a PowerPoint presentation for. So I could take one or two slides and take the bullet points from those slides and kind of create a whole blog post or create a video about that certain topic or step of the home buying process and kind of begin educating people online that way, while also enticing them to come to the class and get all that information kind of wrapped into one session.
Good. So you provided value by the class that you were blogging about, as well as the educational part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Marg, how about you? Where do you get the inspiration for your topics that you blog about?
Well, I agree with Steve. It often is questions that clients ask, and if they're asking, chances are somebody else will be. I also look at things that are topical in the news at that point in time that are real estate related. But one really important aspect is, for me anyway, is to cover local happenings, events, businesses that are opening. For any of your viewers that go to my blog, you'll see that the blog posts that have the most Facebook likes, which you can see at the bottom, are always things that are local topics. So, you know, we have a craft beer festival coming up, so I'll blog about that, or opening of a new restaurant. Restaurants are always popular. So it's a bit keeping aware of what's in the news. The other thing is there's an advantage to SEO by taking things that are topical. For example, right now in our province, Kitech plumbing fixtures is a big thing in the news because they are failing. So I did a blog post on Kitech, and if people are Googling that word, chances are that my blog is going to rank somewhere. So it's a combination of questions, things that are timely in the news, and what I happen to be doing around town that week.
Okay, wonderful. And then, Mark, how long until you started seeing those results from your blog?
In my case, it was a little longer. I would say it was 8 or 9 months before I really started getting results. And at first, I was always looking for comments. You know, who's commenting on my blog? And nobody was. And here we are, you know, 8 years later, and very few people comment on it. But that doesn't mean that they're not reading it and aware of it. And so actually translating into business, I would say, was 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
And by the third year, it was generating over $70,000 a year in leads that actually consummated.
Wow, that's amazing. Fabulous. And do you do like running pieces? Do you have any deals of the week? Do you have any kind of I know you do a lot of local things, but do you have any kind of running blog posts that you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, we every Saturday morning post just a brief market update. And so it has the activity that week, and you can look at it to see, and it's a template. And then the other thing is I'll try and do series if it's a big topic. And one of my best was a niche topic, which I really recommend to people doing. In our area, it's buying condos at Blue Mountain, which is a ski resort. And so I did a series on that, and it was really popular and brought a lot of traffic to the blog because it's a heavily Googled topic. So really, in terms of formula, what I do is I post 3 times a week. One is a local topic, one's a real estate topic, and one is a market update.
Awesome. That's actually, I had a similar one when I was doing that as well. I had a similar setup every week. How about you, Steve?
As far as recurring pieces go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have had a number of them throughout the years. One of them was, I just kind of named it Word of the Week, and it wasn't every week that I did it, but it was basically defining one real estate term and really breaking it down and giving more specifics behind it. So one week it might be, what is earnest money? And another week it might be escrow, and another week it might be appraisal. And so basically kind of making a recurring theme out of, hey, let's define all these little tiny pieces, and again, generating more and more content based on different topics that people might be searching around. I thought that was really helpful. The other ones, of course, I advertise every month for the first-time homebuyer class that we run, and so that's kind of a recurring post that goes up there. I had a number of other ones that were inspired by other agents here. One of them I named Fix-Ups Gone Bad, and that was when you go into a house and you say, oh my gosh, what were they thinking when they did this repair or tried to make this update and failed at it. So I just simply snap a photo on my phone of that and upload, every couple weeks I'd upload 3, 4, 5, 6 of them at a time, kind of make a comment about, look at this person's interpretation of a shower head or something kind of funny like that. So yeah. try to add a little personality, a little humor, into the blog, so it's not just always business, straight business.
Yeah, I had one similar to that where I did one because I went into a seller's home, and in the master bathroom, it was carpeted, even around the toilet.
Oh yeah.
So I made a nice little comment about that. That's just asking for trouble.
Now, do you mean carpet on the floor, or you mean the actual tank was carpeted? Because I've seen the tank.
The floor right up to the carpet,
okay,
right up to the bottom of the tank.
Sure. Well, I've got tanks that have been carpeted before, so I might have you beat on that one.
Yeah, I'll give you that one there. Dangerous.
Yeah.
So how much time do you actually put into optimizing the SEO of each post? We'll start with Marg on this one, since you already mentioned it.
There goes my phone, sorry. I actually put very little time into optimization. I'm probably should do more, but hey, it works. When you've got 1,300 blog posts out there, it almost works all by itself.
Yeah.
I think it's just really important to be content driven, because that helps it to look after itself. The one thing I am aware, though, of is keywords. So I'm always thinking about what are the keywords people might be using that are potential buyers or sellers in our area, and I try and integrate those keywords either into the headline or into the first 2 lines of the blog post, or both. Tag pictures with those keywords. So it's actually very little time. I do tag my posts with keywords, and I try to use those repeatedly.
Yeah. So are you changing the file name on the photos that you upload? Yes. That's good. Not enough people do that, I find. That's a really good tip that people should do, is change it, especially because when you take pictures yourself, it ends up like IMG underscore and a bunch of numbers. Does you no good. How about you, Steve? I have to admit I don't do it all the time because sometimes you're in a hurry, but I try to remember to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of would echo what Marg said there. I used to do, when I first started the blog, I used to do everything, as my my mentor, my teacher taught me, and that was one of the things, optimize every single post. There are plugins that you can install, and that helps the optimization. You can put in keywords, searches that you want to kind of boost it up in the Google and the search results, and renaming photographs and things like that, kind of making it
that optimization for whatever keywords and demographic that you're going after. So I would spend, maybe 5 to 10 minutes on each post depending on what I needed to do. And I know we might get into it at some point during the discussion here, but one other thing I would do is I would do backlinks to other, I know those aren't as important as they were 5, 6, 7 years ago, but I would do backlinks and go on to other blogs in the real estate industry, worldwide or nationwide, and kind of look for other similar type topics and backlink to that topic so that it kind of created that interlinking of, hey, this guy must know what he's talking about because, he's blogging about it over here, and then he's linking back to it with these keywords, and then he's got the photograph with the keyword, and it all kind of, worked hand in hand, I guess.
That's smart. Yeah, I did a lot of the similar things to that as well. Like I didn't even realize, but when I did a lot of the things I learned were by accident. I just started doing them and then found out what they're actually called later. Like I used to do a lot of long tail keywords. So instead of just like trying to rank for Minnesota real estate, I was trying to do like detached Minnesota real estate homes for sale. I just started writing in things like that, and so that eventually started working a lot better. But half the things I was doing at first were on accident.
But Andrew, you just made a good point. I think that's really important right now to do those long tail searches. That's what people are doing, right? There's so much information out there on the internet, and trying to niche down, that has worked really well for me. Is niche down, use long tail titles.
Yeah. Do you guys monitor how much like the search terms people are using to get to your site, and then start adjusting it all towards that, or? Just curious, like how much are you monitoring in terms of what people are searching for to get to your site? How about you, Steve?
Yeah, at the beginning, I did a lot of that research up front, looking at the keywords and how many searches per month. Back in the Google kind of back end, you can do some of that research and kind of monitoring, what terms are people searching for, and then looking and searching yourself on the Google page and saying, what other blogs or what other websites would I be up against for competition if I wanted to try to get my results up in that certain niche keyword or long tail keyword search there. And so I do think that's important. What Mark said as well is to try to niche down and find who your key demographic is and what they're going to be searching for, and the topics that obviously have that link up with the topics you want to be talking about as well, so that you're getting the people that are really specific and looking for that information. Because like you said, if people are just typing in Minnesota homes for sale or Minnesota buyer information, they're going to be coming up with kind of the big hitters in the game, and they're probably not going to find all the information they want on there. So they're going to start adding other keywords onto their searches, and I think that's important to optimize some of your posts and really kind of demonstrate your expertise in those fields so that people begin to trust you online before they ever fill out a contact form or send you an email or give you a call.
Yeah, we have a question from Twitter right now quickly, just because it's on topic. Normally I save them for the end, but it's right exactly what we're talking about. Aaron Corcoran wanted to know if you could explain exactly what long tail is. You want to take that one, Steve, or would you like me to explain it?
Sure. Long tail is basically, so the example you gave, Minnesota real estate or Minnesota homes for sale. That would be kind of a short tail keyword search that people would type in. But let's say they were looking for lakefront property, Minnetonka, Minnesota real estate for sale, for example. And that would be a long tail search that you're really trying to find specific information about that, very detailed topic. So for me, instead of doing something as simple as Minnesota first-time home buyers, I would do Minnesota first-time home buyer down payment assistance program. Okay, so it was 7, 8, 9, 10 words long, but I would blog about that in my post. I would optimize it. I would maybe backlink to it using that as a kind of a link anchor text as well. And so using all those things together, you're going to start ranking higher for some of those long tail search items. Now the trade-off is that not as many people are searching for very detailed long-term keywords like that, but I think the quality is going to be in the people that come there for that specific information, and you happen to deliver it to them. That builds that instant trust and rapport with those folks, and they feel like they found the expert that they've been looking for.
Yeah, that's what I found great about it too, is narrowing it down. Like, yeah, you are getting a much smaller audience, but it's one who's much more interested in what you're doing. So I know,
Right.
like Mark mentioned as well, it's all about getting niche and very specific. Yeah, and we got another question coming up. All right. So if when you're on your blog, and we'll start with Mark on this one, are you mostly getting buyer leads or seller leads, and or what's the percentage of each one?
By far, it's buyer leads. Really, seller leads, I think what happens is sellers make their decisions in other ways, and then they come to my website or my blog to validate their decision. But they're not, it may not be their starting point. So from the people I hear from, I would say it's 80% buyers, 20% sellers. Most of the sellers would be out-of-town property owners. They're more likely to be doing a search online.
That's a good point. I had similar experiences with mine as well. It was mostly buyers. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, obviously the first one that I started was on first-time home buyers, so hopefully I'd be getting buyers, not sellers, right?
Ideally.
If I was doing anything halfway right.
Yeah.
But I do have a number of other sites. I do have a local one in the Apple Valley area that I've started here in the last year, and that's geared more towards sellers. And as of now, I haven't tried optimizing that for the organic search results, but it's more so, it's the website I have on my business card for that local area, and so I'm kind of using it in the same way, except not for the organic results, but like Mark said, when they come to validate who you are or kind of check in on you online before they actually commit to using you as an agent, they can go there and see some of the topics and see some local things and kind of be validated that way and say, okay, this guy, you know, knows what he's talking about because here's his website, and I see him offline and I see him online, and he seems to be the expert.
That's a good point. Yeah, I use that a lot as well, just trying to be seen as an expert and getting out there and getting in front of people. And in terms of, like, especially with the community, do you accept guest posts from other people on your blog, or do you guest blog for other people on their sites?
I did several years ago. I kind of had some exchanges with people and said from around the nation, and would say, hey, you write a post on this topic, I'll write one for you, kind of do that link exchange and that type of thing. Haven't done that recently, but I think that is a good way as you're getting started to kind of create some buzz. And I know I'm blanking on it right now, but I know that there were some kind of national or even worldwide real estate blogging. I can't remember what they were called.
Rain.
What's it?
Active Rain?
Active Rain, no. I was looking, it was like a, man, I'm totally blanking on it. I should have researched it before the webinar today. But it was basically they would take the kind of the top 5 or top 10 posts from all the real estate industry blogs around the country, around the world, and it would be featured kind of on this one curated site, and that would help you get, again, more backlinks and kind of more generated buzz towards your site. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about.
There's a few different ones like that. I'm not sure which one specifically you'd be mentioning. But if you find out, send me a message and I'll post it for people to see as well.
Sure.
Awesome. How about you, Mark? Do you guest blog for anyone or allow guest blogs on yours?
I do have a couple of people that syndicate theirs onto mine. One is a mortgage broker, and another one is a very popular lawyer who writes for the Toronto Star. And his columns also appear now and then. I mean, it's not a regular feature, but now and then. And I have to say it's a bit of a relief when they do, because it gives me a day off of blogging. You mentioned, Andrew, about Active Rain, and I used to do a lot on Active Rain, and I think it's actually a great site, and I made some great connections and friendships and referrals from there, and it was a great way to link back to my blog. However, in the end of the day, we are realtors, we're not bloggers, and so there's a limit to the amount of time that I could spend doing all these things. And so somewhere along the line I did give up on Active Rain, but I agree with Steve too that if you have an opportunity when you're getting started blogging to connect your blog posts or do backlinks back to them by participating on other sites, it's probably a good thing to do, because the more links that come back to your blog, the more that it is going to drive traffic to your blog.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Great
Mark.
point.
Right, you brought up some great points about time. That's one of the big ones we hear a lot of is how do I find time to do all this? So how frequently do you post? And on average, how much time do you spend on your blog posts?
Well, for me, I post 3 times a week, and what I try and do is roughly every second Saturday. That works for me. I get up very early in the morning with the birds, and I'll spend maybe 2 hours and pre-write my blog posts for the upcoming 2 weeks. So they're already in the can, so to speak, and you can schedule blog posts in advance. So it used to be very time consuming, but after all these years, it's become actually quite easy to spend maybe 4 hours a month over 2 sessions, and that will cover my blog posts for the month. So it's great.
Great, great. And Steve, how about you? How much time do you typically spend on your blog, and how often do you post?
Sure. Real quick before I answer that, I found the site that I was talking about. It was the Carnival of Real Estate, and from a quick Google search, it looks like maybe they were bought out by Zillow at some point. So people can search that. But yeah, how often? At the beginning, I was all in. I was doing 4 or 5 posts, sometimes even more per week. And again, it's the old space shuttle, I guess, analogy, right? It takes a lot of work and a lot of energy and time at the beginning to kind of lift it off there. And so I was going gung-ho. I was also a newer agent when I began blogging. And so I was kind of learning myself a lot of these different terms and industry happenings myself. So I got to kind of learn online with other people as I discovered other aspects. And so I would be on there, every day. I would schedule out posts from time to time just because I knew that I had a busy week ahead, but I had time to write the content that night, for example. And so I was on there quite a bit, just trying to get as much lift off as I could at the beginning. And that's probably why I did get a response within a couple months from people finding the site, is because I was pushing really, really hard to try to get my foot in the door there at the beginning.
Right, right. So how many places do you post your content to? Besides your blog, we mentioned linking it out. How many other places do you post it to?
I normally only do the one. From time to time, I would take snippets and link it to Facebook and Twitter accounts. What I found for me, I do have business page on Facebook, but the way that works, it's probably another discussion for Remax Integra Live here. But the way that works now, in October, there you go. The way it works now, it's not quite the same as it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. And so I normally am only posting it on my blog now. And but from time to time, I'll take a snippet and maybe post it on my Facebook just personal profile. I also will send it out to my sphere of influence or my past client database and link it if it's something of relevance to homeowners and say, hey, this is an important thing. Here's a snippet of the article, but for the full article, go ahead and click on my website. Once again, just reinforcing that you're in the business and that you're there to help them if they have questions on anything too.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. Marg, how about you? How many different places do you distribute your content to?
I use Hootsuite to have it automatically go to my Facebook page and to Twitter and LinkedIn, although that link may be broken. I have to check. So, I'm not even thinking about it. That's happening automatically. And when I do go on Facebook, I will personally comment on my business page so that it goes into my personal feed as well, which is where you get way more traffic. And as Steve said, that's a topic for another day. The other thing I do that's been really worthwhile is I do a monthly email newsletter using MailChimp, and I have lots of links back to my blog in MailChimp. And I, of course, get a report every month on that, and I can see what the click-throughs are, and they're pretty good, that people click right from that newsletter to articles of interest to them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right.
And that's it.
Wonderful. And that brings up a good point. So how many different tools do you use for your blog? You have your blog itself, but then you use MailChimp. Marg, do you use anything else? You said Hootsuite.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I mean, in terms of promoting it or whatever, it's on my business card.
Right.
And if I do an ad, which I do very little print media anymore,
Mhm.
whenever there's an opportunity to link to it, I do. But the truth is, people don't go, oh, there's a blog, let me go read it. It's because they've done some kind of a long tail search
Mhm.
that they end up on your blog. And so I don't sweat it too much. I let that just happen.
Good, good. Steve, any top tool tips that you can provide as well?
Ooh, top tool tips. I like the alliteration there. As far as promotion-wise, or as far as getting the content on there?
Either one. So something that, what platform do you currently use, and any tools that you currently use that you find really valuable?
Sure. So I'm using WordPress, and I have my websites are all hosted, and I've all purchased the domains on Bluehost.com. And again, this is all from my kind of my mentor, who I learned everything from. But so you can run WordPress for free, and the domain is like maybe 10, 12 bucks a year, something like that. And hosting for the first one's about $90 a year, and then each extra website I think is like 10, 15 bucks a year, something like that. So it's very, very inexpensive to kind of host the blog on there, especially because WordPress is free, and you can get tons of free themes, and that basically is kind of the layout and the whole design and look of your website. And so on the back end, I've got many, many plugins, and those are basically just kind of add-ons to the website that help create the layout in the way that you want it. As far as some of the content, I do a lot of video posts more recently, and some tools I use with that are, of course, your smartphone. That's the only camera I have. I don't have a special camcorder or anything HD or crazy, $500, $1,000 camera that I hook up. No funky software. I'm using a MacBook from 2008 that I purchased probably about a month before I started the blog. So yeah, it's still running strong, and you've got all the built-in software right there. So I've just kind of created a lot of the content from those simple tools, and I think that's the big part of it is people get afraid of blogging, and
Mhm.
especially the video portion of it, because they want it to be so perfect and they want everything to be right. And there's a quote, I can't remember who said it, but perfect is the enemy of done. And so if you keep
Exactly.
preparing to prepare, you're never going to have things quite right. So using some of these tools, just go out and start doing it. Start writing posts, start doing video. I mean, as you can see, we've got the background office right here. Nothing looks perfect. There's papers all over the place, and there's books, and there's photos, and it's not this picturesque thing. So you can just go and do it and be yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a great reminder. Those are great tips. We hear that all the time. And one of the big things we say in training, and I think Andrew says this too, is done is better than perfect. Because if you wait until perfect, it will never be done. So
Hmm.
it's a good
Yeah.
reminder for everybody
My
to
old
hear.
broker said that daily.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of those things. So, Marg, which platform do you use for your blog?
I use WordPress as well, and I find it the simplest. I've played around with different ones, but WordPress is great, and all the plugins you need are there. And just to comment on that, again, I think one of the things that stops people from blogging, they say, well, I don't know WordPress and I don't know how to design it. And neither did I, and I still don't. That's what that's what there are people out there who are trained in this are for. So I actually hired someone to build my blog and my platform for me and tell me what plugins I needed and put them in. I don't want to spend time on that. So after that, it's so simple. They just showed me how to find the page where I'm going to type it, and it's just like typing in a Word document. And with a little things that you learn along the way, it's very, very simple. But that would be a word of advice right off the top to people is don't get hung up on trying to worry about how to design your blog. There are people out there that can help you and who can do it well.
Yeah. If you're looking for someone to do it for you, Fiverr.com is a really good place to get people to do it for $5. Sometimes they might charge $5 a page. You just got to look at the individual people on there, but whether it's WordPress or Google Blogger, there's actually quite a few people who, for $5, so Fiverr is just fiverr.com, and you can get someone in there to do it for you. So it's a really easy way to get that done. I should have done that because mine did not look aesthetically very nice when I was blogging. I used Google Blogger though, which is, I think WordPress is a little easier to use. I just stuck with Google Blogger because I figured if it was owned by Google, I might have a better shot at ranking higher. Whether that's true or not, I wasn't actually sure at the time. One question that we have, and it's actually a question we got on Twitter and one I had written down. Is your blog, is it on your main website? Is it on a separate website? And do they both link to each other if they are on separate sites? We'll start with you, Mark.
Currently, mine are on separate sites. And again, you got to remember 2007, that's like going back in history into the dark ages. And that's the way that it was done at that time. It does link to my main site and vice versa. However, having said that, I'm in the process of redesigning both. And the blog will become part of the website, but each page will still be individually indexed, which is really, really important that happen.
Yeah, that's smart. You always want to index them all separately to help you drive that more traffic and more content, especially with the way Google's going now, where they care more about content than anything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
How about you, Steve?
Yeah, my website is my blog, basically, or my blog is my website. I don't know how that works, but I started off that way, and I found, again, it's difficult to be everything to everybody. And so for me, of course, at the beginning, I was focusing primarily on first-time homebuyers, and so I picked the name that you see below, MinnesotaFirstHome.com, because at that time, at least, the keywords in your blog, in your URL of your website, also helped you count towards your SEO rankings in Google. And so that site is basically all about first-time homebuyers. I don't really have any information about selling or investing or anything like that. I do have other blogs and pages that websites I've created that are on different various topics or kind of targeting different areas in Minnesota here. And so to me, it kind of worked out better that way so that I could compartmentalize each one and not have somebody go on to my first-time homebuyer site when they're actually thinking about selling and say to themselves, well, this guy doesn't really know anything about how to sell a property. He only helps buyers. Does that make sense?
Yep, definitely. It's a good point too.
Yeah, and it's to be honest, it's more to manage. It's a little bit more of a pain in the neck because you've got these different sites you have to log on to and create designs and do everything 3, 4, 5 times. But for me, I like that because if I ever want to boost up one versus the other, I can simply blast that one out on an email or do a pay-per-click. If I wanted to get more leads coming in that way. So that just worked out for me.
My first year and a half, my blog was just my website. Like I didn't have a separate one. And then I actually ended up switching to have another one for basically the exact same reasons that I wanted to have different types of resources on one and the other. And ended up just making more sense for me to have 2 in the end. But I actually also embedded my blog, so I basically created an iframe window. So if you're on my regular site, you could still read my blog from my site, which worked out well without duplicating content. Another question that we have is, are you scheduling your posts? So you write them all at once? I know Marg mentioned she does. Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit on that too. But are you scheduling your posts, and how far in advance are you writing them? I'll start with Marg on this one, since she already talked about it briefly.
Well, as I say, I try to write about twice a month, and so I'm usually scheduling them out about 2 weeks. And again, since I know I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's a fixed schedule. Tuesday will be local content, Thursday is a real estate related issue, and Saturday is the market update. So actually my assistant does the market update, so she posts it at the end of business on Friday but schedules it for Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. And so my 2 posts for that week, or 4 posts for 2 weeks if you want to put it that way, I schedule them in advance. And I play with different times of the day and watch the traffic at different times of the day, trying to figure out when is a good time to post. And I have to say, I have not figured out the magic formula for that yet, because doesn't seem to make a difference when I post.
Yeah, what I found with my blog is the time of day my blog was actually posted didn't matter. What seemed to matter for me was when I promoted it on social media. So that's where the time mattered, but once my post was up, it didn't like, I ended up just switching it so that as soon as like midnight came on a new day, it put out the new post. But that was just from my experience where I found that for my post itself it didn't matter, but it was actually social media, that's where it mattered when I posted it. How about you, Steve? Are you scheduling your posts out?
Yeah, from time to time, especially at the beginning, I would do that a lot because I would get into kind of a writing phase and I would just go crazy and have like 4 posts in a row. And so instead of blasting those out, I would schedule them out, every day or two to kind of go out, because as you build, the goal of the blog should really be to build an audience and not just you're not just looking for that one-timer, kind of that person searching online, finding your blog, and then filling out a contact form or emailing or phone calling you. What you're looking for is and people will do this, they will follow your posts for a number of weeks or months. And so what you want to do is you want to have that mentality of the audience member in mind. And if you blast out 3 or 4 posts in the same day, they're not going to have time to read all that, and they're going to say, you know what, I got to unsubscribe from this, and I don't have time to read all this stuff. This guy is great, but they forget about you basically. So I think it's very worthwhile to think about that and have that in mind when you're scheduling out posts, that you want to go out every couple of days maybe, so that you're not just overwhelming people all at once with a bunch of different content. And seasonality too. Maybe right now you're starting to write a post about something in the middle of the summer. Well, you could schedule that out 1 or 2 months in advance and not have to worry about it, and then boom, it just hits your site. So I think that's a definite good tool to be using, especially as you begin your website and begin your blogging.
That's a good point. For your actual blog posts, how much time are you actually spending on writing the headlines versus the actual content itself? We'll start with Marg.
When I started blogging, I would say they were almost equal. I would really struggle over the headline, and I probably should struggle more than I do. But I don't spend a lot of time into that. And if they're already in the first sentence of my blog, they're less important in the headline for me. And then I'm more focused on what's going to make somebody click on this as opposed to, let's say, the SEO value. So, things like, just found this great little gem of a restaurant. It's amazing how many people will click on that because they want to know. Or, have you got this monster in your house? That was about the Kitech plumbing, something like that. They just can't resist clicking on it. I think we've been trained somehow in social media that the scarier the headline, the more necessary it is to click. So sometimes something almost naturally pops into your head and it's funny and whatever, and I'll use it. So I don't think I spend probably as much time on it as some people would think they should. Again, I'm always cognizant of the fact that I sell real estate, and the blog supports that effort as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes people get too caught up in doing something and then they forget that they still actually have to sell homes at some point in there.
Yeah, that's where the paycheck comes from, right?
Yeah. How about you, Steve? How much time do you spend on headlines versus content?
Yeah, I don't spend as much time or maybe thought as I should. I am usually in my headlines, I'm very matter of fact, and maybe that's just my personality style. I want to get the kind of the bullet points out of the way. However, I do know that when I'm surfing online, and especially I know we've probably all seen these posts on social media at one point or another, and there's this new trend over the last couple of years to put something out there like, guy walks into a house, what he sees he can't believe, ... right? Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And so you're like, oh my gosh, what did he see? And so you have to click on that to see what he, and then most of the time we're probably disappointed, right? Like, oh, he saw a brand new kitchen. Okay, well, that's, nothing too big, but I do know that's pretty trendy right now, and I think it probably works because I find myself clicking on that stuff all the time, even knowing consciously that this is probably going to be a letdown. But I just check it out, see what they have to say or to show me here. So I would advocate thinking about it from that standpoint of what is your user going to be thinking when they see that headline. And for me, again, trying to educate people, I thought it was more about showing them that I'm the expert and here's something you may want information on, and making it very clear and concise on what the post and the actual content was going to include, rather than trying to just get a flashy title headline out there and get them to click on my article.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the term for that is clickbait, getting
Clickbait,
people to put that there. If you want a really good example of clickbait, BuzzFeed.com is basically entirely clickbait, and they do very well with it. And if you ask people who work there, they spend like 30 to 45 minutes on the headline, and then about 10 minutes writing any article that they put out.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, but I believe there's a plugin that you can install that you can actually put different headlines in and then track which ones get the better click through, and then change the headline for all of them to be that one that gets the best click through. You guys familiar with that?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure what the name of it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'll look that up.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name, but I know that there are some tools out there to basically test out some of those different aspects and figure out which one is going to work best.
Yeah, I've used testing for other things, but I never tested out the different headlines. That might be also WordPress specific as well. I'm not sure. I did use sometimes a headline generator. So you'd kind of type in your topic, and it would generate a essentially clickbait style headline. And that can work pretty well to give you some ideas of what to post about. And one last before I turn it back over to Chrissy. In your posts themselves, either midway through, beginning, or at the end, are you including call to actions about a specific action you want them to take at the end, or are you just assuming that they'll read it and if they want to contact you, they will? Why don't we start with Marg?
Oh, I'm so bad at this. I've actually had people call me thinking I was a consultant, and they did not realize that I was a realtor. And until I got that feedback, I didn't realize how important it was to put a call to action. And I still forget to do it. So the answer is I don't do it, but there absolutely should be. In the redesign that we're doing right now on the blog and website, the end of every blog post will actually have a link where they can click right at the end of that blog post, never mind off to the sides, and email me with a question that they may have to make it really, really simple. And there'll be a call to action attached to that. So, the answer is it's really important. Am I doing it? No, and I'm paying the price for not doing it.
That's good. It's nice to see that you acknowledge that has to be there, because I found the same thing. When I was doing mine and I didn't have one at first, I got nothing from it. And then I actually started putting in actual forms in there and things like that, and that's when I started getting a lot more out of it. So how about you, Steve?
Yeah, I love the honesty there, Mark. That's it takes some guts to admit across the World Wide Web here, but no, you're absolutely right. It's crucial. I mean, think of it as if you spend money, and in this case it's your time because you're writing the content or you're making a video or something on your blog. But think of it as spending money on a postcard mailer and basically just saying, hey, look at this, I've got a brand new listing in the neighborhood, and that's it. It didn't say call me for a free home estimate or call me when you need to sell your home or anything like that. It basically just said, here's this wonderful home for sale, and that's it. Same thing online. You have to have that hook, for them to come back to you, because otherwise they're just anonymous people browsing online, getting free information, and then going and using their cousin who sells 3 homes a year, to help them out. So yeah, the call to action in every post. I, again, at the request, or I guess my mentor suggested early on doing something with another plugin here, not to get too techie for those out there that are beginners, but a plugin with a contact form that essentially after every post, it's kind of like a footer on the end of every post. And I generated a handful of different I guess text-based footers, and it would say things like, Steve Howe is a first-time homebuyer specialist in Minnesota. Click here to receive your free homebuyer guide. Okay, and so what I would do is it was a small, I didn't even know what the word is, but it was basically a small code that I would put at the end of every post, and I would have 6 or 7 of them that I rotated through post after post after post, so it wasn't the same exact message. And so what that did for me is, rather than retyping that whole thing every time, I had a call to action there, and it was on various topics. Either get your first-time homebuyer guide, sign up for the class, click here to contact Steve, ask a question, and so on and so forth. The key to that was leveraging this contact form. And so now that I've embedded that code in every single post, I have a number of them, I can go into the plugin itself, and if I wanted to change the content of one of those specific contact forms, and let's say I wanted to wipe out the one that said Steve Howe is a first-time homebuyer specialist, etc., and instead I wanted to say, Steve Howe helps sellers sell their first property, all I have to do is change it in that one spot, click save, and then automatically in all of my posts it's updated now, and I can have a new call to action or a new message or a new link in every single post, so I don't have to go individually and copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. I don't know if that makes sense, but
So that's a great tool.
yeah.
That actually works. So I was doing it manually when I was doing it. Each post had a new contact form.
I'm always looking for hacks. I'm always looking for optimization and things that save time. So
that's smart. Before we get to the last question from Chrissy, I just wanted to remind everyone watching, if you have a question you'd like them to answer on air, which we're coming up to that part, use the hashtag #RILive. You can see it underneath my name there. Go on Twitter, type in your question with that at the end or at the beginning, and I'll certainly be sure to ask it to them on here. Otherwise, Chrissy, you're up.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Marg, we've gone through a lot of things today. What would be your biggest piece of advice for somebody who's just starting out with blogging or looking to start with blogging?
I think there's a few things. One is, well, first of all, just do it. And it's really important to be consistent. I think you see a lot of blogs out there, and the last post was in 2011, and people have just given up. It's really important to be consistent, and what I did is I made myself a commitment that I would do it for 18 months, and that after 18 months, if it wasn't working for me, I could give myself permission to stop. And so make a commitment. If you're going to blog twice a week, once a week, 3 times a week, whatever, set yourself a time frame and commit to it. I would say that's really important. Another thing is, which we're learning now, if I were starting blogging again now, I would use a lot more video because it is ranking much better on Google since they bought YouTube. And pictures. Pictures are a great way to get a blog post up quickly. So I would say use video content and pictures in your blog posts. There's so many things. Check your spelling. There's nothing worse than reading a blog that's full of spelling mistakes.
Right.
And that's a pretty easy thing that we can all do. Be local. Use local content. You don't necessarily want to attract a buyer that has no intention of buying in your marketplace, so make sure you have a lot of local content in it. Niche, I think it's important to do niche posts. If your town is known for something specific or your city is known for something specific that attracts buyers, then do a series of blog posts around that. Find what that niche is. And, most importantly, I would say be yourself. You don't have to sound like your Wikipedia when you're doing a blog. It's great to use humor. It's great to poke fun at yourself. Don't be mean to anybody else, but have some fun with it and enjoy it, and let people hear your voice through your blog, because they really do connect. And when I meet people now, often the first thing they do, I go to shake their hand and they hug me. I don't know them, but they've been following me for 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. So just be yourself.
That's fabulous advice. That's really good, because when it comes down to it, it's about building those relationships, and it's about getting people to not just read your blog, but know who you are and connect, which is great. And I have a quick story about Steve. Last October,
Uh-oh. Now I'm worried.
last October you were helping with a project, and I was looking at your video blog series, and this kind of goes back to what Marg said about video blog, and I will never forget. I walked up to you at an event, and I started talking to you like I knew you, and I could tell you looked at me. You were like, I don't know who this person is, and it's like, I knew you because I had seen your face and I heard you speak through your video blog series. I felt like I already knew you. It was pretty amazing when I slept at it. At that moment, it really hit me, and it really dawned on me on the true power of that.
Yeah, and I felt really bad. I was kind of like, what are you doing? Like, oh, hi.
I could see it on your face. I know.
Well, yeah, and I think we'd either chatted on, we'd either emailed or talked on the phone or something, and I was kind of embarrassed. But anyways, yeah. No, that's a great point, is especially visual things, video and photos. I mean, we're very visual people and society right now, and so the text is great for some of the rankings, but so is video, and so are those photos that we were talking about, renaming the photo to the actual keywords that you want to get ranked. And with video, like you said, I mean, people will watch this video here online, and they will feel like they know me and Marg and Andrew and Chrissy, just from seeing us and hearing us and getting a sense of our mannerisms and things like that. And I think that's really important, because this is still a people-based business. As much as we want to make it about numbers and about blogging and lead generation and systems, it's really a person-to-person business. And that trust and rapport that you can build with video is really important. So I would definitely advocate doing that. And again, as Marg said, all of her points were totally spot on. I mean, this is my camera right here. I have a little tripod that I bought for like $20-30, little attachment that goes right on here, and I just face this the other way, press record, and say, hey, this is Steve Howe with RE/MAX here. Wanted to talk to you today about selling your home in the winter. And then you just flow from there for 2 or 3 minutes. So you don't have to make it a super produced thing in order to be effective, because at the end of the day, people want to know what you're about, and that's what's really going to sell you on working with them, is getting to know you. And one other thing I wanted to touch on here, it's a Zig Ziglar quote. It's, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. And the same goes true. The same goes true for blogging. If you're going to blog 3, 4, 5 times and not get any leads and think that, oh, blogging doesn't work, or I'm not any good at it, it's the same as sending out one postcard to a neighborhood and not getting anybody to respond. You really have to be consistent. So anybody looking to get started out there, devise your plan, start writing posts even before you have the website name or the niche or anything like that. And then once you get everything up and running, it'll just kind of flow from there, and you won't have to worry about any of that content.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Andrew, would you like to wrap it up?
That was some great tips. The questions that we did get throughout the episode from the audience actually were all answered during, so that actually works pretty well. And we're coming up right on the hour mark, so we're going to wrap it up now. So I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Before we go, Marg, if someone has a referral for you, can you remind them where to send it?
By all means, Marg, M-A-R-G, at collingwood-bluemountain.com is probably the best way, is by email.
Perfect. And how about you, Steve? Where can they send referrals for you?
Sure. Steve at agentstevehowe.com. Send it right over.
Perfect. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. It was a great discussion. I love blogging. There's a lot of good tips included in this one, which is great. So get out there and get started. Our next episode of RE/MAX INTEGRA Live is going to be on June 8th, and it's going to be on the topic of selling to millennials. So it'll be a much different one than this one, but it's going to be hopefully just as good, because this one was awesome. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate you spending the time, and see you next month.